Captain, the J88 is completed by whom?
Independent doctor, Commissioner. I must also state that when I went to fetch the initial docket, the original docket, the 422, some of the J88 pages is missing. So I'm following up with the doctor to see if we can get a proper J88.
So if you go to page 17, which is the J88, can you just identify to us how does one see what the injuries were? We're not displaying it though.
If I look at the J88, there's a few pictures of a body there, Commissioners, and you can see where the doctor made circles is where you can, what I see as, that's my version of a pin when somebody poke you with a pin.
Okay.
I'm looking at page 20.
17.
No, 20, is that not where the doctor is explaining the nature of the injuries, perhaps?
Yes.
I do see swelling, for example, and then number 3, because there's 1, 2, 3. I also see what looks like 4, multiple, something.
Chair, that's all that we have of the docket, yes. And then there is on page 33 a bigger version of it, but it's still the same. Page 33, I think it says 1 swelling on the upper part of the middle left forearm. That's at 1. And then it gives a, I guess, as the size of it, plus minus 2.2. Can't see what that is. And then the second one, bruise superficial on facial left. And then 3, 4 multiple small bruises on, and I can't read the rest. And then if you go to page 17, which has the markers of the injuries. Okay. We can go then back to your statement. So that is what was contained in the docket.
Correct.
Or what the colonel had given you as what she had received from Advocate Andrea Johnson.
That's correct.
Okay. And then if you can just then go to page 4 of your statement.
I'm just, sorry. I've just been trying to cross-refer here. I've gone back to page 17 because looking at number 2, which is what? No, number 1. The swelling, no, bruise, number 2, superficial on, is that facial? And left. So I went back to 17 and I'm looking at what appears there. If you look at the top line, 1, 2, there's a circle there. Do you see that?
On top of the head, correct, Commissioner.
Yes, and it's on the left-hand side.
That's correct.
If this has not been filled in, would you ordinarily have the circle that we see there?
No.
Or is that circle
that is the doc where the doctor will say this is where injuries. When he examines the patient, that is where he shows.
Then the doctor makes that as an indication. All right, I just wanted to. All right.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you, Mr. Sigurd.
Ms. Dube, before you go to the disclosure, Captain, I'm just trying to understand procedurally what happens. So you have the complaint from the whistleblower, and then you have the statement, and then you have the docket from the 2018 incident. What do you do now? Do you open a separate docket dealing with what the whistleblower told you Advocate Johnson did? What exactly do you do? Is that a new case or you open a new docket?
Correct,
Procedurally,
Commissioner.
what do you do?
So what we did in this case, with any other case, we don't use the original case docket that is there. We tried to preserve that as it is for the court to see what was in that case docket. So what we did in this case, we opened an inquiry into the matter. And in that inquiry, I didn't even want to place the statement of the colonel in that inquiry. I just wrote up the investigating diary, although I know I had the original statement. So that is how we proceeded with this.
So you open an inquiry and then it has an inquiry number.
Yes, 8
then-
of 9/20/22.
Do you investigate it as a criminal offense? What
You-
do you investigate it as?
It's as a normal criminal offense, but it's just an inquiry at that stage until you have all the evidence all the statements, and then open a case docket.
Let me tell you where I'm going with this so that you can understand me. There's a suggestion by a witness before you that once your investigation started, how the content of the whistleblower statement was shared between DPCI and the NPA and Advocate Johnson may in itself have been improper. So what I'm trying to understand is if it's a normal inquiry as opposed to a criminal investigation, is there anything untoward with the statement being shared between various units or institutions?
We don't have an issue because we requested, the reason we gave that copy of the statement to General Labia is to request a prosecutor from the MPA to assist us to guide us in the investigation, and also to get our Section 205s authorized, because otherwise we couldn't get anything done. That's the only reason we did it that way.
Right.
But there's nothing untoward. But where it becomes a
Can
problem...
you please, sorry, I know Advocate Ngube is getting to that. I just needed to understand, is it a criminal investigation or it's an inquiry?
It's a
and the difference between the two, you've clarified.
It's a criminal investigation. The one is, it just got an inquiry number, and the other will have a case number when the investigation is finalized.
Thank you, Captain. Page 4 of your statement, the investigation. Paragraph 10, you can read there.
In June of 2022, after meeting with the Colonel, Colonel Roelofse and I met with Mr. Andrew Leesk of AfriForum and Advocate Gerry Nel and Mr. Bateman. As an aside, Advocate Nel and Andrea Johnson worked together at the MPA at some point, and most notably on the prosecution of Oscar Pistorius. I can add there, at that time in 2011, Advocate Johnson also worked with us when we did the General Mgluli matter, the fraud and corruption matter, but later she withdrew from all activities on that investigation. Obviously because her husband is working for crime intelligence. Junaid Johnson.
Okay.
I have read Colonel Roelofse's statement submitted to the Commission and confirmed that my recollection of the meeting is the same as his, as contained in his statement. In particular, I want to highlight that Mr. Barry Bateman told us that Advocate Johnson had requested the information, the Petley criminal complaint, from him. I note that in his statement that I obtained from Mr. Bateman on the 23rd of June 2026, he stated he does not have a recollection of the circumstances that led to him sending the information to Advocate Johnson. However, he can only infer that it was following a discussion and response to a request from Advocate Johnson This together with Mr. Bateman's recollection of
Reluctance.
a reluctance to provide a statement when same was requested in 2022 suggests to me that Mr. Bateman is aware that Advocate Johnson's request to him was not.
Innocuous. Yeah. Now, can I just ask you, at the time when you asked Mr. Bateman for his statement in June 2022, had he prepared something? Did he give an undertaking that he would prepare a statement? Why did it take 4 years to secure that statement?
We did have, Colonel Roelofse did get a draft statement from Mr. Barry Bateman, but there was questions that we had relating to the events and how it occurred. And we wanted his downloads of the cell phone. But when Advocate Johnson were informed by Advocate Batohi, and he received a call from Advocate Johnson, I think it was for that reason that we couldn't finalize his statement at that point in time.
But what do you mean by that? I mean, you're just leaving it hanging in the air. What do you mean that that is the reason that it took so long to get the statement from him?
I can just say that what I think what Mr. Bateman was doing was to see whether anything is going to happen with the investigation before finalizing his statement. Because if I was in his shoes and he's trusting the police, he is informing us of the information that he received or the request that he received. Now all of a sudden, the same person who he gives the information about is phoning him. I will also perhaps just wait until something will happen from the MPA side.
But he didn't express to you the reason why he was delaying with the statement?
Not at all.
Okay. And do you recall how many times you would follow up to get the statement from him?
Quite a few times, but I must say that Advocate Gerry Nel and Mr. Least assisted me a lot in this matter to get the statement finalized.
Okay. Then you can continue with your statement. At page 5, the top of page 5, you say, I would suggest the call Mr. Bateman received. That was where you were at, middle of that paragraph.
I would suggest that the call Mr. Bateman received from Advocate Johnson in September of 2022, which I deal with later, had played a part in him not finalizing his statement. We requested the statement from Mr. Bateman in June of 2022, but Mr. Bateman only provided the statement in June of 2026, 4 years after he was requested to submit the statement.
When he submits the statement now in June 2026, is it because you followed up on it or he volunteered it finally?
Sorry, Commissioner. Yes, Commissioner. After I now received or I requested a prosecutor and there was a promise of a prosecutor, I then requested Mr. Gerry Nel and Andrew Lees again to assist me to get the statement done, because we need to give it to the prosecutor so they can have a picture of what transpired.
Okay, continue with your statement. I think it's paragraph 13.
In August of 2022, we received the statement from the Colonel setting out events of 4 July 2018. At this stage, Advocate Johnson was the head of IDAC, where I was placed, even though I was attached to the DPCI. We could not approach Advocate Johnson given the allegations of interference and defeating the ends of justice. At that stage, I had also obtained the assault an intimidation docket to establish whether the information of the colonel was indeed the A1 statement, the J88 and audio file of the incident. I confirm that what the colonel gave us matched the information contained in the docket. According to SAP's records, on 15 December 2021, the MPA informed the investigating officer that it would not prosecute the assault and intimidation case against General Khan. And on the 13th of January 22, the docket has been withdrawn.
Then on the next topic, if I could just ask you, it's Advocate Johnson's knowledge of the allegations against her, that you weren't personally involved in the meeting between Advocate Johnson and Colonel Rulofsa, or his approach, Colonel Rulofsa's approach to General Labia, correct?
Correct. I was not personally involved. I didn't attend the meeting with Colonel Rulofsa with General Labia, commissioners.
And then, do you know whether General Labia did give the Colonel's affidavit to Advocate Batohi?
Commissioners, what I can say about this, because I recently interviewed General Labia, I asked him about the incident and whether he can remember any of such that happened. At that stage, General Labia couldn't remember, and he requested me to get his diary from his office, his old office, which I did. I saw that there was indeed a meeting on the 2nd of September 2022 with the NDPP, although there is no reference to what the meeting was all about.
Okay. And have you obtained the copy of the diary?
That's correct, Commissioners.
Okay.
Unfortunately, I asked my office permission to share it with the Commission, and they never replied to me in an email.
Okay, and then at paragraph 15, this is you weren't involved in like I said, the meeting between Colonel Rulofsa and Advocate Johnson. But did Colonel Rulofsa tell you what transpired in that meeting?
I can confirm that Colonel Rulofsa was approached by Advocate Johnson and what transpired on that specific day.
And does what he says transpire accord with what he told you at the time? You heard his evidence. Does it?
That's correct, Commissioner.
Then if I could ask you to then read from paragraph 16 on page 7 of your statement.
Both Advocate Batohi and Advocate Johnson are well aware of the potential serious consequences of their conduct, which has the potential to compromise the investigation and place the safety of whistleblowers like the Colonel at risk. Had it not been for the Colonel's decision not to delete the email from Advocate Johnson to her and then to come forward with the information, we never would have known as a senior prosecutor and now the head of IDAC had furnished a suspect with the contents of a docket when he was not entitled to this information at that time.
Paragraph. Both Advocate Batohi and Johnson are well aware of the serious consequences of their conduct. So you are saying Advocate Batohi discussing this matter with Advocate Johnson would have had consequences for the case. Can you just explain that?
Commissioner, yes, the very same thing that we are accusing or saying Advocate Johnson did by supplying a person of interest with a copy of a docket to prepare himself and to prepare himself to make a statement to tailor the evidence that is there in the case docket. It's exactly the same what Advocate Batohi did to Advocate Johnson at that time.
Yes. Maybe then, just to be clear, explain what you say in paragraph 14, right at the end. This is where you discuss the meeting of General Libya and the NDPP. And you say in the last sentence, I think it is likely that General Libya met Advocate Batohi on that day and gave a copy of the coroner's statement, which is what we expected him to do. Can you just explain that in your own words when you say General Libya was expected to give it? What would have been the purpose of him giving this to Advocate Batohi?
Commissioner, yes. The purpose of giving the statement a copy of the statement to Advocate Batohi was, the sole purpose of that is so that Advocate Batohi can be in a position to see for herself and read for herself the statement and the implications of what Advocate Johnson did. It was not given to her with the purpose of sharing it with a person of interest. Definitely not. Commissioners.
Yeah, I mean, it seems there may have been, you give it to her for purposes of making the decision about appointing a prosecutor or for her to institute disciplinary action. Was that the second part? Was it ever in the contemplation when you gave it to her? In which case, it would explain why she would discuss it with Advocate Johnson.
Commissioner, at that point, we only wanted a prosecutor to see whether what is told to us is indeed so that we can get cell phone records and see if we can corroborate what the witness is talking about. That's the sole